want to go back to sleep, but I can't because I've been awake over 2 hours. And the plan was, this was the plan. I mean, oh my God, I'm so tired. I was going to go back to sleep, but I wanted to take some painkillers and my medication that I normally take in the morning, and I was going to come back to bed. But my dad was at home, and I was waiting for my dad to go, and I thought, well, I hoped he weren't going to be long before he went. And then half an hour turned into an hour, then an hour turned into an hour and a half, and then 2 hours later he left, and it's about 20 minutes later. I'm not going to go back to sleep at this time. When I initially woke up, it was acceptable to go back to sleep for up to an hour after I woke up. But 2 hours 15, 20 later is definitely not acceptable, even though I'm very, 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 very tired. And I would love to go back to sleep for a couple of hours, because I never went back to bed yesterday. And that's all I thought about yesterday. Oh, that actually hurt. Yeah, I wanted to go back to bed all day. All day. I even talked about it on here. And again, I'm not meant to be filming because I didn't edit anything yesterday. And I was meant to. So, about 9:30, I was going to come up to bed last night. And it ended up being about, I don't know, I think it was after 11, and I couldn't believe that I'd managed to stay downstairs that long, because I needed a wee, and it was that wee where you only need a small wee, but you feel really uncomfortable. You can't get comfortable because you need a tiny little wee. I don't know if anyone's ever suffered from that, but I suffer from it continuously, and it annoys me. So I came upstairs, and I did my normal thing. I think I should go back to sleep. I keep yawning. I did my normal thing of, and I need a drink, by the way, of like, I'll get ready for bed, and I'll kind of lounge on my bed and go on my phone. So I was on my phone, on YouTube probably, and I was like, oh, I'll just get a bit more comfortable. And I ended up lying down. Well, was I laid down? Yeah. And then I thought, I'll just pull my cover over me. Which, you're probably going to guess what happened. And I was like, oh God, I'm really comfy. And I was like, oh God, I'm really tired. I'm just going to put my phone down. And I fell asleep at 11:30. Now, I did wake up quite a few times to go for quite a few wees. But the last time I remember was about 12:30, and then I woke up at 2. My eyes were stinging. I was like, oh God. And then I went back to sleep, and I've been tossing and turning because I've needed a wee. But when you're so tired you can't physically get up? That's how tired I was. And then obviously I woke up going up for 2.5 hours ago, and I was like, I could barely open my eyes, and I was just like, I really want to take some medication before I go back to sleep because of the pain I'm in, and also I keep needing a wee. I wanted to take my medication for that to hopefully stop me from keep waking up. And it's probably why I'm so tired, because I've had a restless sleep because I keep waking up. And then I was like, oh, hopefully I actually hoped my dad would go out and walk the dog. And it took him about 1:45 to walk the dog. And by that point I was like, because I thought I'll have time to go down, take my tablets, get a drink and come back to bed. And then I was like, well, it's 1:45. Like, I should have been asleep. But I'm super tired, so I don't know what to do. I have a bit of a sore throat as well. And maybe I'm coming down with something, I don't know. But yesterday all day I wanted to come back to bed because I was tired. But I didn't have a good night's sleep that night. I had less sleep than I probably had last night. But it could be not enough sleep. It could be what was making me in pain yesterday, making me more tired, because it generally does make me a bit more tired. Or it could be because I am coming down with something, because when I was talking yesterday on here, I got a blocked nose, I was all stuffy and headachy. And I actually, oh, do you know what? I came to bed with a migraine. Well, I had a headache, and I took painkillers before I came to bed. And when I woke up in the night, I don't remember actually taking it off, but I had to dig around in my drawers for these. It's Cool and Soothe migraine things that you put on your forehead. Because I knew I had a box in here. I always forget I have these, you know, always. And I slapped it on my head. I have no memory of taking it off, so where the hell it is, I don't know. I hope I hope it's not stuck to me in the bed or something. But yeah, it was horrifically bad in the night. And I remember thinking, this ain't going to get rid of my headache. Because a lot of the time, if it's a bad headache, they don't get rid of them, it helps ease it. And I thought, I'm probably going to wake up again and need painkillers. And I remember waking up a few times. Well, I remember some of the times I woke up just like feeling my head and it still being on my head because it's nice and cold when you put it on. And I have woken up and I'd say it's gone about 70-80%. It's gone, the migraine. But I have no memory of peeling it off my head. So, God knows where it is. It's potentially on the floor, isn't it? I had a really bad headache. So, I feel like potentially I'm coming down with something. Because it's not like me to lie down at 11:30 at night. Normally it's like 3:30. Oh, do you know what? It was like, remember Sunday night going into Monday, I was still awake at 6:30. And the last time I remember was 7:30 and I was awake about, was it 11 or something? I think I told you when I filmed yesterday, so I didn't have much sleep. So maybe that's why I'm tired, but I do have a bit of a sore throat. I still have a bit of a headache. My mouth's really dry, but that might be because I've not had a drink for hours. And I feel very tired. So what do I do? And I'm getting a bit of a blocked nose. I ordered some more Vapor Rub wax melts yesterday, just 2 packets. I know I've got a full packet in my office/dumping ground. I don't know if I've got any in here. I might have 1 or 2, I might not. But I think that's it. I am tired. It's bath day today. I don't want to miss my bath. And by missing my bath, I mean I don't want to sleep all day and wake up so late. I don't have time to have a bath before my dad comes home. I don't know what I'm meant to do. It's hard, isn't it? Because obviously I'm in the position where I could sleep all day if I wanted to. I know I have 2 deliveries due today. And I don't want them to... And Royal Mail might come as well. So that's potentially 3 different knocking on the door. Because even though they do leave my parcels where I want them to leave them, well, I'd say 95% of them do, but sometimes you get a new driver who doesn't know. Because I did have notes on my door saying where to leave stuff, and I took the notes off. Because the notes had been up since the start of lockdown. So I took them off like maybe 3-4 weeks ago. Because they'd gotten wet quite a few times. So you had to look really close to read them. And there was one day one of the drivers ripped it off the door and then stuck it back on, and then it was just constantly flapping in the wind. And I could hear this noise against the door, and I kept thinking someone was trying to get in the door. As you can imagine, after Melissa Chadwick DC from Burnley turned my panic alarm off as an act of revenge, I'd been a nervous wreck in the house. So when I was hearing this thing against the door, I was like, oh my God, someone's trying to get in my door. And I kept looking at the camera and there was no one there. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what is that noise? And I eventually found out it was because the delivery guy had pulled it off the door and put it back on again. Don't know why you need to pull it off to read it. It's at the right height to read it at, but there you go. So they've been off since. So there's been a couple of times we've had a driver, because obviously I order from so many different places that so many different couriers come. There's like UPS, there's Hermes, there's Yodel, there's DPD, Royal Mail, Parcel Force, and others. Sometimes every now and then you get a driver you've never had before, and they're typically the ones that will just stand there and banging for ages. there's an Amazon guy that seems to come quite a lot, and he'll stand and knock for ages, and I'm like, well, I'm not answering the door because I don't. And he eventually leaves it. But yeah, if you're going to leave it, just don't knock. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what Royal Mail do? They actually, if it's like the postman that comes round with the parcels, they'll normally knock and put a card through the door, or just knock and leave it, depending on what time it is. Or if it's the postman that comes with the letters and stuff, if I've got a parcel and a letter, they'll write on the letter, parcel such and such a place, and they'll leave the parcel, and then they'll knock and walk off after they've left the parcel and left the note. If they don't have like any letters to come through the letterbox, they'll put a card through. But to be clear, Amazon don't typically put cards through. Some do, some don't. Anyway, the problem with going back to sleep is there's potentially going to be 3 knocks at the door today. I know Hermes is coming because they've texted me twice. They text me, right, and they're like, it's going to come between 1 and 3. 20 minutes later, sorry, we've got to reschedule today's delivery. We're now coming between 1 and 3. And I'm like, well, the first one said you was coming at 1 or 3, between 1 and 3. So the second one was a bit pointless. I know I've got a delivery coming via Amazon, but that might come with Hermes. Might come with Yodel, it might come with someone else. Don't know. And Royal Mail might deliver something today that might not fit for the letterbox, so they're potentially going to knock. And that's the problem with me going back to sleep. But me falling asleep at 11:30 at night never happens, no matter how tired I am. Even when I've only had 2 hours sleep the night before and 2 hours sleep the night before, me falling asleep at 11:30 without even planning it, even when I plan it, it doesn't really happen. Rarely happens. There's been times when I've been absolutely exhausted and think, yeah, I'm going to have an early night, I'm going to be asleep for 9 o'clock, and I'm still awake at 3 in the morning. So, and also, just before I came upstairs, I had tons of Diet Coke. So I must have been tired, because normally Diet Coke would keep me up all night. So, yeah, it's a little bit unusual that I fell asleep like that. And like I said, I was just like, oh, I'll just lie down, or I'll just pull my cover on, or I'm going to put my phone down. Like, I remember thinking when I was I'm going to put my phone down, I thought, God, you're going to go to sleep. Like, I was so shocked at myself. But yeah, I must have been tired, and I still am. I've literally woke up, when I woke up, my eyes were stinging, and I feel super tired. And I've been going on about going back to sleep for about 20 minutes now, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up, going to go downstairs, going to take... I don't know if I want any painkillers. I think if I end up coming back to bed, I'll take painkillers then, unless my pain gets unbearable and downstairs I'll obviously take some. But did you know your body's got like this, it's like got its own natural painkillers, and when you're in pain, it tries to like, it does something like to try and help with the pain. So the pain that you feel is sometimes not as bad as you'd feel if your body didn't have this. I don't know what it is, like I'm not a doctor, but it does, your body does do something to try and get rid of pain itself. So sometimes the pain you feel is not as bad as it would be if your body wasn't doing whatever it's doing. I mean, I don't know what it's doing. Yeah, I'm not a doctor. I wouldn't want to be a doctor. I'd faint. Like, someone would come in and like, oh, doctor, I've got this. I'd be on the bloody floor. I would need the bloody doctor. Get up. Go and take my main medication. I feel all stuffy and blocked nose and headachy. And I've been like this on and off for a few weeks now. So I feel like my body's trying to give me something, and I feel like my body's fighting it, which I'm happy about. Obviously, I don't want a full-blown flu or cold. I'm going to have something to eat, but I don't know what I want. This was yesterday as well. I was like, oh, I don't know what I want. And I didn't. I didn't really want anything. I think it's because I was in pain. And I'm so tired. I reckon I could... Well, I need to go to the toilet first, but I reckon I could get back in bed and go back to sleep easily. Because I'm that tired. I'm lucky because, you know, some people like have like a 9 to 5 job or an 8 to 5, or some people work 8 to 6 or 10 to 6 or 5 to 3, and they have to get up regardless of how they feel. And if they're ill, well, it depends how ill you are. If you're really ill, too ill to go to work, obviously you would call in sick. But sick pay is rubbish because you don't get paid for the first 3 days, which, you know, sometimes you're well enough to go back on day 4, so you're taking 3 days off and you're not getting paid for it. So I can understand why some people go to work really, really ill. When I was working, if you was watching me back then, you know that at one point I got severely ill and I was still having to go to work because no one else could do what I was doing, and the bosses literally expected me to go in regardless. And I went to work and I was so ill, and then I'd leave work and I'd have loads of stuff to do after I left work, and I'd come home and I'd be really unwell, and I'd do live videos on here when I could do live videos. And then I'd be up all night because I'd be stressed out because I had to go back to work the next day, and I weren't well, and I'd dread it, A, because of how they were treating me, and B, because of how ill I felt. So then I weren't getting enough sleep, and then I'd have to repeat it the next day, and it ended up with me having to go in hospital on Christmas Eve because it got worse and worse and worse and worse. And like I'd got like medication on off my doctor, I think, on the Monday, and on the Friday or Thursday I was back in. And then, because when I went back in, it was the male doctor who I don't like. He was like, I want to put you in hospital, and I'm like, no, I'm not going. He's like, if you get worse, you have to go. And I'm like, yeah, of course I'll go. Didn't plan on going. I was like, guess if I'm going. And I got worse and worse and worse. And then I ended up getting taken in an ambulance on Christmas Eve. I was so ill. Oh my God. Christmas Day was a blur. Boxing Day was a blur. I can't remember what day I got out, but I was made to go back to work the day after I got out. And I was like, I messaged my manager and I was like, can I start at 11 instead of 9? I've just got out of hospital, I'm really ill, I need some rest. And she's like, no, I need you in at 9. And I got really upset about it, to the point I couldn't go to sleep that night until about 4 in the morning. I had 3.5 hours sleep, I had to get up, I had to take all my medication with me to work, and I ended up having to work an extra 4 hours on top of what I normally worked. And I was like, I can't believe I have to do this. And then they'd booked me to work New Year's Day and maybe New Year's Eve as well, and I was like, I can't work those days. And then I went back in one day, got really ill, got rushed back into hospital again, took the next day off because they made me go back in for tests, because I basically walked out the hospital, I think, and I went back for tests, and then I went and saw her, and I'm like, I had jaundice. I can't remember if I said on it, I probably did. I had jaundice. I ended up with jaundice because I was so ill. And I went in, I'm like, I've got jaundice. She's like, oh, your eyes are yellow. She's like, are you coming back to work tomorrow? And I was just sat there like, I've got jaundice. She's like, yeah, but you'll be well enough to come in, won't you? I'm like, I'm really unwell. Can I not be off till Monday? And I can't remember if this was Wednesday or Thursday. She's like, oh, I need you in tomorrow. And I'm like, but I need some rest. Yeah, but you're here now, so surely you're well enough. Because I'd gone straight from the hospital to there to tell her how ill I was. And then the owner of the business was like, no, you can have tomorrow off, come back in on Monday. So it meant I had the whole weekend off. But I just, you know, when someone says something and you're there like thinking, is this person being serious? And then when you realise they are being serious, that they want you to go in even though you keep collapsing and ending up back in hospital because you probably weren't well enough to get out of hospital. In fact, I know I wasn't, because I made them think I was better than I was, because I got told under no uncertain terms I had to go back in the day that I went back in, and then they don't give me enough time off to recover. Then I had to go in even though I was really ill, and then I collapsed, and then I had to go to hospital and have tests done. Oh, actually, I didn't collapse. My doctor sent me up to hospital. She booked me in thinking that they were going to admit me and put me straight on a drip, and they didn't. And then it was that day I was sat there for 6-7 hours, and I weren't allowed to leave the room because if I got called next and I weren't in the room because I'd gone to get a drink, I then got put back to the bottom of the list. So I ended up sitting there for 6-7 hours. Then they tried to admit me and I refused to be admitted because I knew I had to go to work. So yeah, there were that. And then obviously when I realised she kept making me go to work even though I was really ill. And I'm there with jaundice. She's like, oh, your eyes are yellow. Because they were yellow. They weren't like the really, really bright yellow. It was like a pale yellow. You had to look close to see it. But yeah. Some people are just like, they're unbelievable, aren't they? Like, some people think the world revolves around them, or that people can keep going and going and going. But obviously I ended up in hospital because I was having to go to work when I was severely ill, and instead of giving me time off to get over it, I was still having to go. And then because I was going from one thing to another at the time, I was really busy, I wasn't resting. And then when it came to bedtime, I was so stressed out about the fact that I had to repeat it the next day, and I weren't getting any better, I was getting worse. It was keeping me up most of the night, so I was just exhausted. It's no wonder, because my body did shut down on me. I ended up where I couldn't go to the toilet to do anything. I was so weak. I was trying to film videos. I'm like, I'm so ill, I don't know what to do. And I kept saying I hope I don't end up in hospital. And then the next video, she sees me in bloody hospital. Bloody because I've been admitted. It's bad when it gets to that state, isn't it? And it was horrific what I had to go through when I was in hospital to get out again. But some people are just like, they can see how ill you are and they expect you to carry on. Like, it's like actually, I've never met, well, I have met people like her, but at that point, like, you know, people who employ people, they forcing someone to work when they literally should be in hospital, it's evil. And I remember, like, when I was working there, she treated both of them really, they treated everyone like crap. Like, there was this one woman who kept booking of doctor's appointments, and it was basically like you got given hours to work, and some people got more hours than others. Like, some people didn't want more hours and they got the hours they wanted. But then sometimes when there was too much work and there weren't enough people to do it, they would give people extra work. And sometimes, like, if they'd be like, well, I can't do that. Well, if you don't do that, you won't get such and such hours, such and such hours. So they were basically saying, if you don't do these extra hours, you won't get your normal hours, so then you won't earn enough and then you can't afford to live. So they were basically forcing people to do stuff that they didn't either have time to do, or, you know, it would mean they would have to, like, miss out on certain things, or, you know, like, and if they didn't do the hours, they would take other hours off them, which was cruel. And there was this one woman, I can't remember what she was called, she kept booking her doctor's appointments, and then they would, like, she said, well, I got this doctor's appointment at such and such a time, and then when the person who was booking the jobs, like who goes to what job and when, we were like, oh, such and such has got a job then, but I'm gonna have to has tried to book that time off to go to doctor's appointment, but I need to use them then, so they're gonna have to miss the doctor's appointment. So then, like an hour before the doctor's appointment, they were like, well, you're working this time, you've got to miss your doctor's appointment. So then they was having to cancel the doctor's appointments less than an hour before, which, if you rung doctors an hour before your appointment and cancelled it, you'd get a mouthful off the receptionist, and then you'd potentially get a letter off the practice telling you off and saying if you do it again, you're not going to be allowed any more appointments. I've never personally had that happen to me, but I've been in reception, like waiting for appointments, and heard people cancelling and heard the receptionist kicking off on phone at them, which I can understand an hour before. If it was any longer, then I don't understand it, because I know people ring up at all hours of the day trying to see the doctor. So I can, if they've got time to book someone else in, then there's no need to kick off. But yeah, they kept doing it to her. She'd be like, right, I'll book another one. And they'd be like, well, booking it in advance. So she'd book it for 2 weeks later, and then they would book a job for her at that exact time. And I remember her coming in, and she'd be being quite upset, going, I need to see the doctor. And they'd be like, well, you're going to have to book it after 9 o'clock at night. And she'd be like, well, the doctor's not open at that time. They're like, well, go up to the hospital instead then. We need you at all hours. You can't have a doctor's appointment. And I was like, I was sat there thinking, you can't stop someone from going to the doctor. If someone is trying to book on a doctor's appointment, they're not booking it just for the fun of it. And I remember this went on for months. I left before, I knew if she ever had that appointment or not. But by the time I left, she'd been trying to have a doctor's appointment for 4 months, and they constantly booked things in that time slot to stop her from going to the appointment. And I was like, it's so cruel, because the manager could easily go and do the job herself and let her go to the doctor's appointment. But it was all about control. They were constantly controlling everyone. They were controlling me, but in the end I was like, even before I got sick, I'd had enough. And it was constant blackmail. They were constantly blackmailing everyone. And constantly, like, if you don't do this, you won't have this. And if you don't do that, we might have to get someone else to take your job. And it was people who relied on the money to live on. And they had families and stuff. And it was cruel what they were doing. And they still do it now. They still control every single person. I mean, they go through a lot of staff. They're constantly hiring staff because people are constantly leaving. Because eventually people... Well, not all of them. People have put up with it for years, but a lot of the time people leave because it's just, they take over your life. They stop you from doing whatever you want to do. They stop you from having doctor's appointments, and like with me, they stopped me from being off, and I ended up in hospital severely ill. Then they forced me to get out of hospital. Then I ended up collapsing, and then they ended trying to get me back into work the day after. And then even when I'd had the weekend off, I was really ill, and they kept me going in, and I wasn't getting any better. And then my mental health had been suffering for months because of the pressure they were putting me under. And it was like, there was an incident at work with Queen Caroline, as I called her, lying, because she didn't like me working there because I kind of went in above her, and she thought she should have a managerial position like me, and she didn't like it. And they thought, well, she went in pretending she could do things she couldn't do, and they thought they needed her, so they always favoured her over everyone else. So she lied about me, and my manager went nuts at me, and then I was treated quite badly. I don't even remember if I told you about some of the things that they were making me do, but it got more and more ridiculous, and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Especially when it came to me being ill, and they weren't letting me take any time off to get better. I was like, this can't carry on, and I quit. And when I spoke to my doctor about it, I was like, they're not letting me get better, I'm getting worse. And I just couldn't carry on with it. And she was like, she knew I'd done the right thing, and it's funny because the day that I decided to leave, and I've talked about this at the time and in videos since, by the time I got from the front of the building to the car park, which is anywhere from 10 to 30-second walk depending on how fast you walked. I don't think I walked fast that day, so it might have been 20 to 30 seconds. By the time I'd left, shut the front door and got to the car park gate that you walk through, I had decided to leave. And I went in with a letter the next day, and I didn't back down. They tried to get me to back down. They tried to get me to go back in after I'd left. But I'm one of those people, and if you follow me long enough, once I've made a decision, I've made it, and there's no going back. The thing is, you know, if you've put up with something long enough and you make a decision to leave, if you've put up with a hard time for months and months, and they've treated you badly and they've conned you out of money and they've done this, that and the other, when you've made that decision and you've made it so quickly within the space of 10 seconds, yes, people make decisions in haste and like they regret it. I've never once regretted that decision. It's been one of the best decisions I've ever made, and I needed to do it for health reasons. I was really, really ill. Like, really ill. The physical health was so bad.